Morning guys, welcome back to another video. Now, I honestly thought this video would be part 3 of the Gibb River Road, but it turns out I already finished the Gibb River Road. So I wrapped up my time in El Questro and I was making my way over to Catanara and I came across the eastern sign for the Gibb. So yeah, for some reason I thought Catanara and the Purnululu National Park were included, but that is not the case. But if my backdrop didn't give it away, I decided to come out to the Purnululu National Park, which is exactly where we will be exploring in this video. Now, as far as a wrap up of the Gibb, I think I made it very loud and clear in my last 2 videos that the Gibb River Road was stunning, but so bloody busy. I would probably argue that it has been one of the busiest places I have seen in all of my 2 years of traveling Australia. But like I said, very well worth it. El Questro was probably the take home for me. That was my favorite spot by far. Hopefully the last 2 videos give you guys some tips on, places to visit in the area. I'm sure when I come back around here next year, I'm going to explore probably even further than sort of the main sections that I did get to. But we do have a lot to explore in this video. So the Purnululu National Park is huge. I have kicked it off up in the northern end. So I drove in yesterday, camped in the area, and we're going to kick it off by doing the Akidna Chasm hike. This is like this almost like narrowing gorge that you can walk through, which is stunning. And if you time it just right, the light hits perfectly. So we are going to be doing that. As far as the road getting in here, let me tell you, the road getting in here was worse than all of the roads on the Gibb River Road. So if you're planning a trip, maybe just take that into consideration. But let's get the bag packed and we'll head on in now. So the actual hike into Akidna Chasm is only 2.1 kilometers, but it is actually classified as a grade 5 hike. So it's going to be quite interesting, but the name actually came from, so Akidna being the Australian Echidna, they said that the rock formation sort of gives off the look of the spines of an echidna, which I thought was really cool. Actually so cool. It is very eerie because it's very quiet. I'm very echoing. There isn't really a lot of light in here just yet, so we will just have to hang out until that sun hits right at the perfect time. But it looks like we can continue through. So naturally the path is just going to continue to narrow out. So I might just do a little bit more of exploring, and then I'm sure it's going to look amazing. Like from what I've seen of the photos, it just looks like the ceiling is on fire when the light hits. Thank God that I'm not really one for a sleep in anyway, because it turns out 11 a.m. is the best time to be in that section for the lighting, which it was fine. I ended up just coming back to the car. I had some coffee, had some breakfast, did some other little bits and pieces. So yeah, it is a little bit warmer in the day now because the next hike we are going to do is the Mini Palms Gorge Walk. This is 5 kilometers and it's now midday. So she's going to be a little bit warm. So we're going to pack lots of water. I believe this one is pretty shaded, but we'll find out one way or another. I definitely don't think I'm going to fit through here with my bag, but we'll see. Alright, she is definitely hot today, but found some shade, so I think I'm going to have a drink here and then we'll continue upwards. It is very safe to say that this hike was well and truly worth it. That is absolutely stunning, and those colors are insane. I could just imagine that during wet season, like all of that would just be like almost like a flowing river. At least it looks like it anyway. So as far as camping goes for tonight, I've actually just booked into the Currajong campground. So this is the campsite located on the northern end of the Purnululu National Park. And then tomorrow we're going to camp up on the southern end. So yeah, so far there's actually not that many people here. It's very spacious. So I feel like I actually really like this campground so far. So I thought we'd actually just come out here nice and early, have an early dinner. And then tomorrow we've actually got even more hikes, I'm pretty sure, in the area. But you guys might recall a couple of weeks ago, I actually did a review on the Bluetti Elite 100 V2. And this is something that I'm just using as like, I guess, additional power. You guys will know that I've got the full 12 volt system set up in the BT, but I did have a lot of questions about this and in regards to like how it holds up. So I thought for tonight, I'm going to cook dinner. I'm going to cook some gnocchi, which is probably the most power consuming recipe that I do. But I thought that we would do it 100% on the actual Bluetti system, along with charging everything I need, so that you guys can see, I guess, how it does hold up if you are going to use this for everyday use. So you can see we're on 92% to start off with. So I'm going to plug everything in and then we'll see how it holds up. So first thing we're going to do is get our sweet potato on boil. So I've got the induction cooktop. I'm going to plug this in, and then from there I'm going to plug in all of the devices that I need charged. So our sweet potatoes are done and we are currently sitting on 66%. With this recipe, I think I've said this before, like I completely eyeball this, but effectively sweet potato, flour, and then add 1 egg and then just combine it. You just want to get to a point that you can effectively just roll it out, and then you can cut it into your tiny little gnocchi. So you'll get to a point where like it's just near impossible to actually mix it with a fork. So I'm going to wash my hands and then we're going to continue to knead this. So whilst we've got our water boiling now, we can now cut up our gnocchi. So I'm probably going to section this into like maybe 4, and then we'll just roll them out and then obviously cut into our smaller sections from there. I've definitely made enough gnocchi to serve at least 10 people, so I'm only going to stick with half of that potato mix that I made, and I'll just save the rest of that for the next couple of nights. And we're sitting on 46%, so definitely chewing through it with the induction, but look, that is to be expected. So we're back in with our induction so that we can pan fry the gnocchi. Now, I should warn you guys, obviously I have not been to the shops because I'm still technically within the vicinity of the Gibb, so I just have not actually been to a town. So this is going to be the most basic bitch gnocchi in the entire world. So I've got olives, I've got tomato paste, I've got coconut cream, so it'd be more of like a creamy based gnocchi, and then I've got coriander and garlic powder and butter. So that is as good as it's going to get. So we're going in with a lot of garlic powder, pretty significant amount of coriander. I will never understand people who do not like coriander. And then I'm just going to let that cook until it gets like a little bit crispy. So I've just roughly chopped the olives, so I'll chuck those in now. And then I'll give that about 5 minutes, and then I will put our tomato paste in. I'm going to say that even with minimal ingredients, that still looks pretty good, although I cannot wait to get to the shop and actually get some vegetables. Now, as far as the Bluetti system goes, so it actually does come with an app as well, and this is a really good way that you can just track it. So yes, we're sitting at 32%. Now that I've turned off the induction, we still have 42 hours and 36 remaining with just my drone charging, but I'm going to enjoy the beautiful gnocchi that I've made, clean up the absolute mess that I've made, and I'll see you guys all in the morning. Good morning, guys. It is breezy today, but I feel like I'm going to appreciate that because I think I mentioned yesterday we have got some of the bigger hikes in store today, so maybe it's a good thing if it's a little bit cooler. But you will see right behind me, I'm going to get a nice close-up shot for you as well. We have got the Bungle Ranges, which this is pretty much what I would say makes up the Purnululu National Park, because most people refer to this area as just the Bungle Bungles, and that is why. So it's almost like this maze of like beehive style structures. I wish we could put the drone up here because I just think the shots would be incredible, but it is a very strict no-fly zone, so we're just going to have to go and do the hike through the Bungle Bungles and see it from the ground view. So we're going to head over to the Domes Walk now. That one's a super easy one. And then we're going to go and do the Cathedral hike, which I think is the longer one for today. It's still pretty early, so I think we'll get to this now and obviously get that hike done before the heat kicks in. Tucked away in the heart of the Purnululu National Park, the Bungle Range is one of Australia's most striking and remote landscapes. These distinctive beehive-shaped domes are made of sandstone, sculpted over 360 million years of weathering and erosion. The orange and black banding comes from layers of algae and iron oxide, a natural masterpiece that only reveals its true scale when you're standing amongst them. But long before this place was known to the wider world, it actually held a deep cultural significance for the Jija and Jaru people who have lived on and cared for this land for over tens of thousands of years. Purnululu means sandstone in the local language, and the entire area is rich of dreaming stories passed down through generations. It wasn't until the 1980s that the Bungle Ranges were discovered by mainstream Australia, and even then it was only by accident and from the air. Today it's actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site celebrated for both its natural and cultural value. Walking the Domes Trail feels like you're entering another world. The scale, the silence, the history that's embedded in every single curve. And then Cathedral Gorge is one of the park's true highlights. A giant natural amphitheatre carved by water and time, where even the smaller sound echoes through the stone. Finishing off with the Picaninny Lookout, the vastness of the range stretches out in every single direction. This is just a reminder how wild and untouched this corner of Australia still is. Well, I figured since I was in the area, I might as well tick off the Picaninny Lookout as well. So that was beautiful. But that makes up 4 hikes. There is a heap more in the area that you can do, but I think I'm pretty content with those 4. You kind of get to a point where it's such beautiful scenery, but it does all start to blend in and look very similar. So I'm thinking we'll hike out of here, have some breakfast, because it's actually still really early in the day. It's like 11 o'clock and I feel like I just did so much in such a short period of time. And then I think there's a lookout in the area we can go and check out as well. could say that I have been out doing all these incredible hikes all day, but I went to my campsite, I had breakfast, and then I set up the hammock and I just did not move all day, which look, I'm not even mad about. I've had 2 very big days of hikes, so I feel like I just needed a little bit of a chill day. But I've come out to what is apparently the best sunset spot in the area. Now, I am not going to say the name because I feel like I'm going to absolutely butcher this. So let me show you guys. And then it's actually like a pretty quick hike up to the top, like 500 meters return. So super easy. So on the drive in here, I actually saw a snake on the road. I couldn't get my camera out in time. Obviously I was driving, but it did get me thinking because I feel like I have seen some comments before regarding, yeah, snakes and spiders, because obviously Australia is full of so many deadly animals, but I actually don't ever see snakes. Like hiking, camping, like I rarely ever see them. Maybe I'm just oblivious, but yeah, for someone who does hike a lot and literally spends so much time outside, I don't see any anywhere. That's probably the second one I've seen. The first one was in New South Wales. I was camping out somewhere in the bush. I can't even remember, but I woke up and there was a huge python outside of my tent, but poor little guy was actually dying. So yeah, not as much as I would think, but I'm curious, like, do you guys actually see snakes, spiders? Like, obviously if you're in Australia, let me know, but even if you're overseas, I feel like it's the same perception. Like whenever I think about overseas, you think about like bears and lions and like all these crazy things you've got to consider when you are hiking, but I feel like it actually happens less than what people think it does. I'm going to start making my way over to my campsite for tonight and then making my way over to the Northern Territory, which I'm so excited. It is the only state that I'm yet to have visited, so definitely keen to bring you guys along on that one. So as always, thank you so much for every little bit of support you guys show me, and I will see you guys all in the next video.